Okay, I wanted to just do a little video on the pickup truck over here. Let me open it up here. So this video, I want to quickly discuss removing the air conditioning and the power steering for anyone who is thinking about doing that. So when I first bought my truck, it came with power steering, but it did not have air conditioning. And for anyone who may be contemplating life with a Toyota pickup truck, and mine's a 1990 two-wheel drive, for anyone who might be contemplating life without air conditioning and without power steering, and one of the reasons I removed all these things is just to simplify my life when working on the truck. You can see when you don't have the power steering how nice it is, and gives you easy access down there to the fan belt. In case of a fan belt break, you can just replace it on the side of the road basically with a 10mm end wrench. Now, I'm not running a mechanical fan. I've switched over to an electric fan, as you can see, and I still have the old dual pulley harmonic damper in front. But what caused me to remove it was, as I said, I wanted to just clean up the engine compartment and make my life a lot easier for service, just kind of declutter things a little bit. These trucks, I'll try to capture this as best I can. These trucks use an older kind of recirculating ball system, something like you'd see in the mid-60s or 70s or 80s even. So this is a recirculating ball steering unit, and normally this line right here goes up to the power steering pump, which sits kind of right here and is always in the way. So what I did was I started researching, could I still run the recirculating ball, but would it be possible to remove the pump? So what I ended up doing was I drained out about half the fluid, and then I built this little loop similar to what I saw when I started searching circle track cars. And one of the vehicles I've always thought about buying, and I've actually tried to buy one a couple times over the years, is a Ferrari F40. And that particular car does not have power steering, and I thought to myself, well, if that car doesn't have power steering, my truck doesn't need power steering. So when I was contemplating removing the power steering in an effort to clean things up and get maybe better gas mileage and all that, I started researching online. I couldn't really find a definitive answer. So I've been driving the truck for several years, probably going on about 3 years, with no power steering, and I just wanted to kind of relate my views. Now, if you do a lot of off-roading, you might need power steering. I don't know. I don't do off-roading. I drive the truck on the street. But in my experience, the lack of power steering doesn't really hamper driving the truck. If anything, I sort of feel like it gives me more connection to the road. So I really like the way the truck responds with no power steering. I was able to remove a lot of the systems involved. From the factory, they have kind of a weird thing that comes over, and I can't remember if it hooks to the distributor or where the heck it used to go, but it has to do with providing extra hydraulic pressure, I think, when you're at full lock. Anyways, I was never so happy to throw anything away in my life. It really isn't missed. The only time, you know, you might kind of wish you had power steering is when you're doing a tight turn in a parking lot, for example, or when you're doing a 3-point turn or something like that. You do have to kind of crank the wheel, but you know, it's nothing major. It's certainly not enough to, you know, preclude you from removing the power steering. As far as not having the air conditioner stuff, my truck didn't come with it. I don't really miss it. I've driven the truck plenty of times in 90 and 100-degree weather, and I just open, you know, the vents and let the air come through. So I don't really miss not having air conditioning, and that really, you know, opens this area up real nice. Removes, you know, a lot of the air conditioning kind of lines and everything like that. So personally, I don't miss it. I think if I bought another truck that had air conditioning, that would probably be one of the first things that I did away with. So for anyone who's wondering, you know, if you can get by without power steering on your pickup truck, I think the answer is yes. And as you may know if you've watched the channel, I have fairly large tires here, 225 65 17s, and even with the larger than stock tires, I don't have any problem cruising along. Like I say, if anything, I feel like it gives me a better connection to the road. Now, I will mention fabricating this little bypass loop was a little tricky. It took me a couple of times to get this right. I don't recall what the fittings are offhand, but I believe these are the original fittings that are on there when you get the truck with the power steering. What I ended up doing, this is actually the loop that used to be the I think it was the cooling condenser part for the air conditioning. It used to bolt kind of, it used to be bolted kind of, I don't know if you can kind of see, but it used to be bolted kind of right in here, and I think it was something to do with cooling for the air conditioning unit that might have been on the truck at one point, or it might have been, oh, I take that back. I think it was cooling for the hydraulic, for the steering pump. I don't remember, but whatever it was bolted right in here. Kind of a weird little loop. And that's what I ultimately used for my bypass right here. And the reason I tried to make, a couple times I tried to bend my own tubing and make a bypass, but I just couldn't get a radius that tight. So I ended up using the one that I already had laying around from removing whatever that was up there. I also tried to block these ports off originally, but even with draining out the fluid, that doesn't work. You have to leave a pathway for the fluid to kind of go up and around. So if you decide to do this modification, that's a couple things to keep in mind. Like I say, when I first got the truck, I kind of was very concerned, like, oh my God, I don't know, you know, should I ditch my power steering? You know, is it going to be like trying to drive a half track down city streets, you know, with no power steering? But in the end, like I say, I don't really miss it very much. You know, you can see my driveway over here. I have to do turns and, you know, 3-point turns to get in and out. So I'm always cranking the wheel and backing up the truck. Never have really any problems. Even parallel parking or doing tight turns and maneuvers in you know, parking lots and what have you, I don't even think twice about it. Now I will say, at one point I had given some thought to installing the electric power steering pump from the Toyota MR2. If you research that, the Toyota MR2 has an electric motor, and I was going to actually mount it right in here and run the lines down to the power steering pump and then put a switch on the dash that would allow me to, when I need power steering, such as parking or whatever, I would be able to flip a switch and enable the system. But in the end, I decided I liked it kind of just like this, completely, you know, analog, I guess, if you could say, or just completely, you know, eliminating the power steering. And it's proven to be a really nice modification to the truck. Simplifies a lot to do with the motor here, and like I said, I don't miss it at all. So if you were wondering, should you or shouldn't you, you know, is it something you will miss? As long as you're okay driving a truck, you know, with a 5-speed transmission and maybe a racing clutch, and you don't mind a little bit of having to crank the wheel a little bit, 95% of the time when you're cruising down the highway, I think having that better feedback from the steering wheel is a benefit. And you know, at the most you might miss it, you know, in a parking lot. However, as long as the truck is moving even a tiny amount, the wheels turn very freely. It's the power steering only really is missed when the truck is stationary and you need to, you know, go full lock or something, and the tires are biting into the ground. In that case, it is difficult to turn the wheel. But as long as you have a little tiny bit of forward or backward movement with the vehicle, then turning the wheel is no problem at all. So again, for anyone who's contemplating removing their power steering, that maybe gives you a little bit of a roadmap to whether it's something that you can live with or not. And like I say, when I bought my truck, that was something I contemplated for quite a while, and I couldn't really get a definitive answer from any of the forums as to whether or not it's easy to drive the truck without it or not. And so that's the purpose of this video. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to use the comment section below. Thanks for watching.